Hello, everyone. It's Mr. Barden here. Just making sure that it's actually recording this time. This video is going to be all about the new version of p5.play. This is the library that we utilize for the programming course that I've helped put together through LSU in order to create a lot of sprites and a lot of 2D game environments in the online code editor p5.js. It really could be any code editor, but this is the one we mainly use. Okay, so I just kind of gave a real short description of the p5.play library, which I happen to have right here. This is a very handy library. Like I said, it's useful for applying images and animations to different objects in your sketch. These objects are the sprites, usually. That's kind of the main core building block of that. You can see here we've got some stuff without looking at the actual code. It appears as though this whole thing might be a sprite or just the individual arms of the logo. It's a little hard to say right now, but then the smaller pentagon is another shape, and we've got that collision and gravity data. That's the library that's managing all of that. And again, you can add multiple bits and pieces and see how they all interact with each other. That's kind of the main goal. I wanted to point this out partly because this web page is in the description of the video down below. It's got a lot of useful stuff. Primarily, there's a few tutorials that they give you. I'll occasionally reference them, but mostly I'll be presenting my own tutorials, but there's additional ones there. Demos you can explore that the people who've put this together have made for you to just see different things that the code can do. The documents, which are what we'll be looking at most, and a few other links and things like that. Okay, so with that being said, before I hop into the actual code portion, definitely consider liking and subscribing and commenting all the YouTube stuff. But if there's anything else you want to know specifically, or if you have any questions or something didn't quite seem super clear, definitely put those in the comments down below the video, and I'll get to those as soon as I can after I see them. I'm always looking for viewer suggested video topics to make future ones for. And then again, if you enjoy the video and the other content on the channel, definitely consider subscribing. It does help out a lot. Okay, so that being said, we'll hop back and forth into varying pages here. I actually don't need you up here anymore. But let's make a sketch. Let's use this library. That's the main part. I want to draw your attention right to where my mouse is on this starting page, and this is the template sketch. This is a very useful thing, and I've actually got it all highlighted here, but you can see there's a lot of stuff, a lot of comments, does a lot of things by random. This is kind of their starting sketch, and you can check it out, and it basically just makes a new sprite, and they interact randomly, but they do interact with each other. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but we're not going to go through every single thing. This is more of a useful tool to have. And again, you can set all of this stuff. Right there. What I do want to point out specifically is in the HTML file, and I've highlighted it here. They've luckily added some comments to make it easy to find, but there are 2 lines that we need to have in our sketch in order to utilize this library. The first one here is a link to what's basically the physics engine. If you go back to the main page, it's saying how it's utilizing this particular stuff for a lot of behind the scenes for the physics. So you need to have that in order for it to work, and then you need to have the link to the actual p5.play library. So what you can do is you can copy all of those. I can't post them in the comments because YouTube doesn't like it when you put HTML in the comments. but I'll put a link to this sketch right here that I'm making in the comments below so you can find it. But basically, all you have to do is take these two lines, this version of 3 and the Planck physics engine, and add them into the HTML of whatever sketch you're going to make. So for me, this is actually right where they go as well, but right to the end of these script lines on line 5, and I just paste it right there. You can get rid of the comments if you want. It doesn't really matter. And now they're loaded into the P5 sketch. You can give it a name. Sprite. There, and save it. And boom, there it is. You don't have to do anything else. The computer will go to these URLs and find them and store that in the memory for this sketch. So I'll go and hide that away so you can check this out and get that line if you need to. Or you can just check out the the starting code here. I'll share that as well in the comments. But now that we've utilized the library, what do we need to do? Well, what we need to do is make a sprite. And there's a bunch of different ways we can do that. It depends on the context of how you want to use your sprites. But I'm just going to go through the most basic way of we're just going to make a sprite and put it on the screen. The first thing we need is a name for our sprite. And I like to do this usually globally if I'm just doing some basic stuff. Depends on, again, the context for whether or not I'm doing it locally or globally. But for today, we're going to do it globally. So just like making a variable, I'm going to create, like a variable. We'll call this the player sprite. Just like that. It's going to be a name. This is technically, it's going to be an object other than a variable. So a lot of the stuff from the object lessons I have and classes, that's coming back into play right here. But I'm going to make it, and then we're going to call it by name. Player sprite equals a new instance of the sprite class. And again, because it's a class, sprite has a capital S. We do need to give it a few arguments. And what you need to give it, at the bare minimum, are either 3 or 4 values. The first two are the X and Y position. So let's just 200, 200. The third is either the width of the shape or the diameter of the shape. So I'm wanting to illustrate this. When you have 4 values, so it'll be X, Y, width, and height, and it will make a rectangle. If you just have 3, we no longer have that height value, and then it's just, basically X, Y, and diameter, and it will make a circle. I'm going to illustrate that right now. So let's say 50 by 50. I run this code, boom, there's our shape. 50 by 50, I can make it, taller if I really wanted to. I don't, there it is. If I got rid of this last one, then it automatically updates and it makes the sprite a circle. Why this is important is because sprites have a little bit of collision detection all around the end of their model. And this is the model here. It's either going to be a circle or a rectangle. And it can be whatever sizes you want. So that's what we have there. We don't need anything else to see the sketches to see the sprites by default in our sketches. In previous versions, you would have to utilize a separate method called draw sprite or draw sprites. That's not the case anymore. And in fact, it's not even in there. In the properties or the methods, I believe. Yeah, it's not gonna be a thing. There are a few duplicates in here. Not sure why, but anyways, this page right here is every single thing our sprite can do. And again, I don't know why things appear to be doubled. again, this is still version 3.0, so they'll be fixing stuff and updating it as time goes on. But this is, again, everything we can do. There are the methods and then the properties. Now I'll just kind of scroll through that again. For some reason, it's all duplicated. Don't know why. That'll go away in the future after this video comes out. Someone watching this well into the future should put a comment on the video of whether or not that's been fixed yet. But anyways, this is all the stuff we can do. I'm not going to go through all of it right now, but all we have to do is, make it be a new instance of the sprite, and we just boom, it's there. We can also just remove it and hide it from the screen, so that way we don't have to see it if we don't want to. There's another one up here called allow sleeping, which, if I'm right, basically it just decides whether it's sleeping, and it doesn't get it basically just gets ignored by the physics engine. But we're going to hop into all of those a little bit later. So let's, just for fun, we'll make this a circle. For basically all of my other videos, all my sprites have been rectangles. But for this one, we're going to do a circle. So this is our sprite. We just have to, again, give it a name and say it's a new sprite. From there, just like any other object, we can talk to it by name. You may have noticed the color changing. By default, the color is random. But using dot notation, we can talk to the shape color property and assign it to be something else. So maybe I want to make it really red the whole time. I'll make it green for the player. So, basically no red, all the green, and maybe a little blue. Why doesn't it? It's a property. I've not gotten those errors before. Okay, well, let's do this. Equals. I'll just do this instead. I haven't gotten that error before. And again, okay, apparently it doesn't like arrays. But it'll take a string. I'll have to work out some of those details. And again, there may be some bugs as we go. Normally that works. So, but you can utilize the shape color property. If we go to shape color, right there. Again, it's basically just what the color is. Normally, we'll add images to it, so that way we don't have to worry about the colors. But it's usually just a random color, or we can assign it to be a specific one. So there's that, all right there. So this is pretty much the core to making sprites. If I wanted to, we could do this instead. I'll just show you how we can make one or make a bunch right here. So maybe we want to make a bunch of sprites. So I'll go into my setup function. We'll say for. There we are. For I equals 0. I is less than, let's make something crazy like 50 sprites. I plus plus let pull a new sprite. And we'll say random between 100 and 300. Random between 100 and 300. We'll make them all really tiny, 10 by 10. And these will all be squares. So if I run this, boom, we've got all of these right here. One thing that's important is by default, all sprites will collide with each other by default. And I wanted to point this out because this is a neat thing that, again, is happening that's an update. Before, you would have to go in and manually tell all of your sprites, okay, do we want to displace a thing? Do we want to collide with it? Do we want to bounce off of them? All these different kinds of collision interactions, you'd have to manually type them in. This is not the case anymore. They are now automatically bumping into each other, but we can have them ignored. But for right now, we're just going to leave them at the default. You can see this right here. Again, all my sprites are kind of randomly placed, but there's this green circle, and the sprites that would have spawned inside of it are now just, as close as they can, and they actually kind of rotated around the circle, so they're no longer all perfectly the same. You can kind of see this green one up here. These two are colliding, but then they got kind of pushed over by this pink one, so it's kind of caused them to come off center. So you can see all of these collisions being monitored as the sprites get spawned, and then as they'll be updated and moved later on. It's a pretty handy little tool. So now, we don't have to manually program every single sprite. With collision data, the sprites will automatically bump into each other by default now. So, with that being said, I think we'll kind of wrap this one up very shortly. We'll kind of be winding down now. Again, I just wanted to reiterate the main things that are different between the previous version and the new one for spawning sprites. That main one being, we now have 2 lines of code that we need to include in our sketches, and I recommend just making a new sketch, pasting these in, and then saving it just as a default starting p5.play sketch. So again, you can just take it, save it, there you go. And then we just have to have a name for our sprite. You can either make it global or local. It kind of depends on the context. You'll see me doing both. Like I did here, it's local to the for loop, but here it's global, so I could talk to it wherever. But then from there, you just say it's a new sprite and give it the values. You need to give them either 3 or 4. If you give a sprite 3 values, it's going to automatically be a circle at the location you give it with the diameter you give it. If you give it a 4th value, that becomes the location and then the width and height of the rectangle. So again, if I made that different, and you can kind of see they moved once they spawned because of that collision data. But again, you can fine tune all of that. Maybe I want to make it 20 instead. You can just see all the changes in the collision data. Again, all sprites automatically see each other now. You can make as many or as few as you need. Just keep in mind, the more you have, the more resource heavy your sketches will be. You can set the colors using the shape color property. And then all of the properties are present in the document stuff right here. I'll again put a link to all this in the chat. Just know that this is a very recent update, and for some reason it appears all of these things have been duplicated inside of the reference material. I'll see if I can pass that along to them. They usually have ways for reporting bugs and things like that. But again, because it's new, I wouldn't be surprised if shortly in the future, this starts to kind of update and tweak the formatting as we go. But that's basically it. We know how to spawn sprites. We can put them wherever in the screen. They automatically see each other, and we know how to adjust their sizes and colors. So I think that's a great place to wrap it up for now. We'll continue working through this and being able to do more and more things with our sprites, including what specifically happens, because right now they just bump into each other and nothing happens. Being able to move and control them and change them. And ultimately, we'll end up adding our own unique images and animations to the sprite, so that way they don't just look like a color with that's a square or a circle. It can actually look like things and go into a game. So that's what you can expect going forward, and that's going to be it from me today. So if you enjoyed the video, you learned something, definitely like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube bits and pieces. It is very helpful. I'm going to end it now, so I think that'll be it for me. So I'll see you all the next time that I see you. Bye.